Hello, my name is Niki Ashton. I'm the MP for Churchill, Kuwait, Nukaski, and the NDP critic for tax fairness. We are seeing an unprecedented attack, an economic war on Canada and Canadian workers by the U.S. Trump administration. And let's be clear, Canadians have rejected it out of hand. The despicable lies from President Donald Trump about fentanyl and migrants, the leveling of punitive tariffs on Canada and Mexico on the whim of a megalomaniac president, the disrespectful and reprehensible attacks on our sovereignty as a nation. Let's be clear, our sovereignty and our independence didn't just happen. We are a country proud to be there for each other, not afraid to recognize historic wrongs like the genocide against Indigenous peoples. We are proud to celebrate our diversity, valuing it as our very essence. President Trump, you have tried to insult our political institutions, our independence, our true identity. But let me tell you, we are proud of who and what we are as Canadians. Our country will live on well after you and your administration are gone. I have never been more proud of our country. I have never seen such an outpouring of support for our country, and we need to continue to do this. But we also need to recognize that the attack on us by the Trump administration and our vulnerability to that attack didn't just happen. We need to take bold action to support each other and make sure that our Canada is less vulnerable in the future. Part of that is our ability to raise taxes on the rich so we can invest in Canada. Today, we're dealing with the legacy of decades of hollowing out of our economy, key sectors like manufacturing and mining sectors, and our taxation system itself. This didn't just happen. This has been part of an agenda to privatize and open up our economy to the very vulnerability we face today. An agenda of tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthy. It is the result of decades of liberal and conservative policies, of job-killing trade deals, of privatization and austerity that have brought us to this point. It is the result of the intentional establishment of a tax code that allows the rich and powerful to get away without paying their fair share of taxes while workers pay more than what they have. The rich and powerful have been allowed and even encouraged to not pay what they owe in taxes. Which brings me to Mark Carney and Brookfield Asset Management, the person who has been touted as having the solutions to our economic challenges. And yet Mark Carney is very much the poster person for the broken system, the hollowing out of Canada that has made us so vulnerable today. Mark Carney has a clear track record of pushing for wealth accumulation for the rich at the expense of workers and Canadian communities. A 2023 report from the Centre for International Corporate Tax Accountability and Research called Brookfield Canada's top tax dodger. In 2021, Brookfield Asset Management dodged a jaw-dropping $6.5 billion all on its own, according to Canadians for Tax Fairness. In 2021 alone, Canada lost $30 billion in corporate tax revenue to offshore havens. This means that 1 in 5 of all the tax dollars corporations diverted from the Canadian public came from Brookfield alone. This is obscene, and Canadians are paying the price. Today, we in the NDP are calling on Mark Carney to come clean about his role in Brookfield's exploitative practices. Did he help Brookfield dodge taxes? Canadians deserve to know. We must be clear, there is a real cost to corporate tax avoidance. With the tax dollars Brookfield hid in offshore accounts in Bermuda, we could have invested in healthcare, affordable housing, and desperately needed infrastructure on First Nations. Today, we are calling for tax fairness to strengthen our sovereignty and our fight against the American administration, bold action that will begin to reverse the hollowing out of our economy and the inequality and vulnerability many Canadian workers face because of that hollowing out. This also means taking on Trump's American billionaire buddies and their companies who work here in Canada without paying their fair share of taxes, if they pay them at all. Elon Musk, Amazon, Walmart, Uber, Airbnb, often making it easy for them to compete unfairly with Canadian companies, even putting those companies out of business. These tech bros and their fellow billionaires are taking advantage of Canada's lax tax code to extract massive wealth from Canadian workers and our country. And they're now cheerleading debilitating tariffs on us all. Enough is enough. Today's unfair tax system has weakened our strength as a country and is rendering us more vulnerable in times like these. But despite the crisis, Liberal and Conservatives are falling all over each other to weaken our tax system. In the difficult weeks and months ahead, we will need to be there for each other now more than ever. We will need to support Canadian workers and our communities more than ever. It starts by making sure that those who have been part of the problem, wealthy tax avoiders, become part of the solution by paying the taxes that they should have been paying to begin with. It's time for bold leadership to turn the clock back on the hollowing out of our economy and restore fair taxation. The Liberals have failed to fix our tax system. Look no further than their supposed flagship promise, the capital gains tax. Now, both leading leadership candidates have promised to scrap the capital gains tax, a tax that would have generated $17.4 billion, according to the PBO, for our economy. The Conservatives have been on the same page, voting against our NDP proposals on fair taxation and rabidly opposing the capital gains tax, using fake news and fear-mongering to make their point. And now Pierre Poilievre is bizarrely pointing to tax cuts as his response to Trump's tariffs. Liberal, Tory, same old story. Let's be clear, fair taxation has been a main pillar of the Canadian social safety net. It's been critical to our ability to provide universal public health care, quality education, historic investments in infrastructure, key social programs, and a high quality of life. But our tax system has been eroded over the last couple of decades. We need fair taxation to strengthen our sovereignty, strengthen the standing of Canadian workers and the Canadian people. Today, we are calling for a fair taxation action plan, a plan to be implemented to provide the funds to fight back against the American President Donald Trump and his administration's existential attack on our country. It's time for a wealth tax. It's time to bring back the increase in the capital gains tax. It's time to take concrete action to end tax avoidance, the likes of which we saw from Brookfield Asset Management. It's time for tax fairness. If there is a clear lesson from the last several weeks, it is that much of what we're sold in the way of an economic agenda has only made things much worse today. It's time to fight back. It's time to stand up for our Canada. Thank you. I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Hi, Ms. Ashton. Stephanie Levitz from the Canadian Press. From the Canadian Press. That's a holdback. Whoa, from the Globe and Mail. Wow.
It's all good. We know.
You talk about bold leadership. You talk about Liberals, Conservatives, same old story. But I'd like to hear your assessment of your current leader, Jagmeet Singh, because your party is bleeding support in the polls to both of those other parties. What do you make of that? And do you still have confidence in him?
Absolutely. Jagmeet Singh is our leader, and he will be our leader going into the election. There's no question. And I'm proud of the work that he has done and that the NDP has done. But as I've also said today, this is a moment where, as Canadians, we need a bold vision to strengthen our country. And it's only the NDP and our leader, Jagmeet Singh, that has been calling for tax fairness, including a wealth tax. It's only the NDP that's been clear that the rolling back of the increased capital gains tax is shameful and unacceptable. And it's only the NDP that's calling out billionaires, and obviously right now, including calling out Mark Carney's involvement in Brookfield Asset Management. Right, Mark Carney, who's been touted as the poster person spokesperson for weathering this economic war on our country, has in fact actively been part of a corporation that is part of the problem, not paying its fair share of taxes. I think this is a moment where Canadians are afraid, are concerned, are coming together proudly, but also saying that we need a different way of doing things. And the NDP, I would argue, is the only party that's clearly calling for a different way of doing things right now.
Do you need a different way of getting that message through then? Because it doesn't seem to be hitting when pollsters are going to Canadians.
Well, I think it's this is an unprecedented time, right? And we've been clear on where we stand. I mean, we've also been very clear that we want Parliament to be called back immediately. We've also been clear that Parliament should be involved in putting forward a plan to assist workers that are in crisis at this time in our communities. But I know there is a lot going on, and the news coming out of the States is changing every day, if not every few hours. The NDP has been consistent in terms of our principles, and I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I'm proud of the message that we're putting forward today, including being the only ones that are calling out some serious questions with respect to tax avoidance. I know obviously the Conservatives have asked questions of Carney's involvement with Brookfield, particularly the move to the U.S., but we're going further than that, and we're saying, what about his time in leadership in a company that was seen as the number one tax dodger in Canada? That is not a label that I think a future party leader or even potential prime minister could and should stand behind. Canadians deserve answers, and that's what we're calling for today.
Do you think an election is the best thing right now?
Well, I mean, I think we've been clear that our country needs a new direction, and we've done our part to put forward, implement bold change for Canadians, historic investments in the social safety net, but we've also been very clear that Liberals and Conservatives have taken us to a point where we're seeing record inequality, including generational inequity, the likes of which we've never seen. And now, of course, we have a full-on economic war with the U.S., supposedly our closest ally. I think this is a time where Canadians should have the choice of what the best way forward is. But in terms of an election, but like I've also said, we've been clear that in the immediate sense, we also need to recall Parliament to put forward a plan for workers who are stand to lose a great deal, and obviously our communities as well.
So then you'd support pulling down, like your leader has said he wants to vote down the minority government at the earliest opportunity, and also recall Parliament to pass a bill. Those things don't match up.
Well, I think what we've been clear on is that there needs to be a plan to help Canadian workers now, and Parliament should be involved in passing that plan. I don't think any party would disagree with that. I certainly hope not, and I don't think Canadians would either. I think the question of sort of the broader direction of our country is another one that we will obviously decide on when the time comes as well. Any other?
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui conclut la conférence de presse.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.